When you play the Game of Thrones,
Subscribe and like.
you die. There is no middle ground.
Welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about Brienne's storyline in a Game of Thrones and how D&D ruined the character even when they had source material. And this isn't just a later seasons of Game of Thrones problem. In a lot of ways, this is a structural problem even from season 4. So we're going to break down Brienne's plotline. I'll do a little bit of referencing to the book just to kind of show what her arc could have looked like compared to what they did in the show. So let's go ahead, let's dive into Brienne in the show and talk about my massive issues I have with the character. You might be thinking, oh, so we're going to start in season 5, that's when the show started getting bad. No, we need to talk about season 4 of Game of Thrones. It's something that as, the years have gone by and I've watched season 4 more, I've seen more people's thoughts on season 4, Brienne's storyline in season 4 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you really think about it. And so I really specifically want to talk about the second half of Brienne's arc in season 4, not as much in the first half where she's at King's Landing, she's present for the Purple Wedding, all that kind of stuff. It's more when she leaves King's Landing that makes not a lot of sense and really drives me kind of nuts. So the first part of this, of course, Brienne gets to the Crossroad Inn. She runs into Hot Pie, of course, because Hot Pie would be one of the only people that knows where Arya is. Then we see another convenient little moment where Hot Pie even tells them that Arya was still alive and all this stuff. It's like kind of a weird scene in the show, but I'm willing to accept it. One plot convenience. Conveniences aren't always bad. But as you're going to see with Brienne's arc, there's a lot of conveniences. So this first one where it's Brienne and Podrick and they're talking to Hot Pie, of course, the one person that knows that Arya is still alive. Okay, fine and dandy, right? That's just one plot convenience, fine. But let's then think about what they decide to do next. They decide that they need to go to the Eyrie, to go to the Vale, because, well, Aunt Lysa would be there. So of course that's where Arya would go or whatever. Okay, fine. But let's also think about what they were trying to do. Remember back in season 1 or book 1, when Tyrion and Catelyn try to go to the Eyrie, they're attacked by the mountain clans. And also remember that Tywin dismissed all of the mountain clans. They were all paid for their efforts during the Battle of Blackwater. They were sent away, Tyrion loses their support, and they end up going back into the mountains of the Vale, and they start basically being even more antagonistic than they were before because now they have proper weapons, they've been in battle, all that kind of stuff. It's even more treacherous than it was in book 1 than in say the end of book 3 or for the show in season 4. So they decide, let's go to the Vale. Now this is actually a plot point they took from the book. So in the book, we see that the initial plan was for the Hound and Arya to go to the Vale to try and sell Arya to Lysa, the same idea that applies in the show. But the massive thing you run into is they don't do that in the book because, well, they're basically told that by a village leader more or less to the Hound. So right away, the Hound and Arya don't do that because they would never make it. So you would think that Podrick and Brienne would either be A, smart enough to realize they can't actually get to the Eyrie by way of just traveling on the road, they'd have to take a boat, or that somebody would tell them that. Well, it doesn't happen because we see not once, but twice, 2 groups of parties make it all the way to basically the Bloody Gate without being attacked once by the mountain clans. And yes, this is a big red flag on the Arya and the Hound plot in season 4 as well, because Arya and the Hound also do this. They have a little joke on, the Bloody Gate about, oh, this is Arya, but then they have the thing where Lysa's already dead and Arya has this laughing moment. It's outside of the Bloody Gate, which is it makes no sense. It's a funny scene, but it makes no sense when you really think about it. So then you have Brienne and Podrick who do the exact same thing. And what a convenience. The mountain clans, they don't find either Brienne or the Hound's party. And what else could we find? The Hound and Arya meet up with Brienne and Podrick. And we have this big fight at the end of season 4, which is it's incredibly brutal. It's entertaining to watch, but it makes zero sense once again for Brienne. So Brienne right now, for me, has had 3 conveniences in the span of a couple episodes. 1, running into Hot Pie telling her that Arya is still alive. 2, not running into the mountain clans at all, even though they're watching literally that whole way to rob people and kill people, but that doesn't happen. And then 3, running into Arya and the Hound on their way back from them also not having to get any consequences of going on the road to the Eyrie. So that all makes no sense to me. Brienne and Podrick then also can't keep eyes on Arya, which makes sense in terms of Brienne fighting the Hound. But really, Podrick, you couldn't see where Arya went? Okay, whatever, fine. And then the other craziest part of this is Arya then by herself is able to actually get to a ship to then, there's a whole bunch of different like conveniences that happen at this point of the story, but Brienne and Podrick apparently don't see this at any point. Arya then goes back to the Hound's body where Brienne and Podrick were literally currently at. Nobody sees any of this happening. The Hound is literally screaming. It's just really, really stupid for Brienne and Podrick's like plotline. So let's then get to season 5. So season 5, we follow off of the same note where we have Brienne and Podrick. They're still kind of like on the road somewhere in the Vale, and they end up seeing who else? Littlefinger and Sansa heading down the road. What another plot convenience. Like, it just drives me insane because all Brienne's arc is in the show is just plot convenience, plot convenience, plot convenience, plot convenience. It's crazy. So then they follow Littlefinger and Sansa, who are, coming out of the Vale. They're going to be going to the north to have that awful plot line. Fine. We then see as Brienne reveals herself to, at this inn, once again, to Sansa. And Sansa is okay with Littlefinger having Brienne and Podrick killed, more or less, sending people after them. Whatever. Okay, fine. So then, as Brienne and Podrick don't give up on following Sansa, they end up following them all the way north to Moat Cailin. And Brienne and Podrick apparently are going to go miles around it. That's not really possible unless you're talking about going into the Reed land, and I'm telling you right now, there's no chance in hell Brienne and Podrick made it through there with no guides, nothing, and they were just allowed to go through, because we don't see it, and apparently it wasn't too difficult because they're not injured or anything. So that is terrible. So by the time we get to like the middle to the back half, it's really just Brienne is trying to get a message to Sansa that if she's ever in trouble or anything, light this candle, which is like, makes no sense. Brienne would not be just like sitting here looking at this old tower the entire time. Like all she does for the next like, couple days, maybe a week or two, like however amount of time passes from Brienne giving this message to Sansa to her actually doing it. And that's the other craziest part. So then season 5 actually comes up with like a good decision, a good moment for Brienne. One is she's either going to go after Stannis, she's going to give in to her emotional response to wanting to revenge Renly, all that kind of stuff. Or 2, she can stay and do her duty to try and rescue Sansa or to help her out in some way or another. How she was going to do that, no idea how Brienne was going to do that. But what the show does is they let Brienne get revenge on Stannis, which is also crazy given Brienne went all the way through a battlefield. Nobody like attacked her, did anything. Brienne is able to find Stannis as well in terms of a battlefield of thousands of men and is able to finish him off. So another convenience, which is like, I might have been willing to overlook that convenience if Brienne didn't have so many throughout her entire plot through season 4 and season 5. But no, okay, whatever. So she kills Stannis, right? So you're thinking that because of her actions, she has now let Sansa down. That should be a huge, big plot moment that Brienne, because of her own selfish interests and getting revenge, that doomed Sansa, or it made Sansa not trust Brienne even more. So that's what's set up at the end of season 5, getting into season 6. Season 6 then takes that and goes, screw it. We're just gonna, make our cake and eat it too. We're gonna have Brienne save Sansa and Theon from the Bolton men, all that. So it had no consequence at all. Again, very convenient that Brienne knew exactly where to find Sansa with these Bolton men on their heels and that she's able to get there in time to save the day. Sansa then also isn't like upset about Brienne, in any way not living up to this promise of her helping her when she needed it. It was Theon who did that. And so the entire Brienne storyline of season 5, season 4, and then even season 6, I mean, the rest of the show, she doesn't really do all that much. Like, Brienne, after this early point of season 6, really just serves as I'm a bodyguard who has no real development through season 6, season 7, and then she has a little bit of development in season 8 when she's knighted by Jaime. That's one of the best moments of season 8. But in terms of like the Brienne character, D&D never figured out how to do anything meaningful with the character of Brienne. She just becomes a background character at this point after she's basically already been kind of destroyed. Like, she is a completely illogical character that makes no sense whatsoever, and the plot just revolves around her in terms of conveniently giving her something to do. Because the problem that I guarantee D&D looked at was, when you think about A Feast for Crows, which is really Brienne's book, she has a lot of POV chapters in that book. The issue that I have with Brienne's arc in that book is that her plot starts out very slow, and she is a character that lacks a lot of focus because she's going around just trying to blindly find Sansa, and we know Sansa is in the Vale, and we know she's not going to find Sansa. And so you kind of run into that issue where that character really lacks a little bit of focus. But what's great about what George does with Brienne in that book is Brienne starts to become the character that has the central theme and what George is trying to tell with the story of A Feast for Crows in her arc, with her later chapters and all that kind of stuff. And she has some great reveals in that second half of her arc. Whereas in the show, they pretty much skip all of that in literally like half a season of season 4. And then season 5, it's like, we just are on a, let's follow Sansa around, and then eventually something's going to happen. Like, that's how it feels. And so I don't really need to talk much more about like season 6, season 7, season 8, because after that point, Brienne isn't much of a character anyway. She doesn't get a lot of screen time. Like, she's off the screen for a while, then she goes to River Run, and she tries to get the Blackfish to help Sansa and Jon. He doesn't do it. Brienne escapes, more or less. Like, the same idea of the Blackfish escaping from the books. Whatever. And then Brienne goes all the way back up, and then she reunites with Sansa, and then we have some more cringe scenes that we see as the show goes on with like Arya and Brienne fighting. Like, there just isn't much left of the Brienne character, whereas like Brienne is such a strong character in terms of character conflict and the issues she's dealing with in the early seasons of like season 2, season 3. She just kind of never really recovers, and there's not really a lot of payoff to her as a character. Like, in season 8, there's some good stuff that happens, like her becoming part of the Kingsguard makes a ton of sense, and her becoming a knight makes a ton of sense. For me, those moments feel hollow because the character has stopped functioning so long ago. Like, you know? And that's what I wanted to talk about. I feel like we don't give D&D as much criticism as we should for the character of Brienne. I know the characters we all think about when we look at who did D&D destroy. We look at characters like Daenerys and Tyrion and Jaime and, our main crew of characters, but we never look at Brienne, a character that really got destroyed much earlier on than a lot of those other characters did. Like, Brienne, the destruction of her character really starts in season 4. And that's something I think we overlook a lot. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think I'm right on Brienne? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you not hate on Brienne in season 4 as much as I do? What do you guys think? And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.